My name is Megan, and this is Everything Lit. Today, I'm going to be talking about the goals that I had in 2022, decided them in January, and where I'm at with those right now. It is end of November, beginning of December, and I'll talk about where I'm at right now, if I've met the goal or not, and then if I think I'm going to meet the goal by the end of the year. So I have my sparkly notebook, which is how I keep track of my books. And so these were my 2022 goals. We'll talk about that. And then the way I keep track of my reading is I use colorful pens. And I list all the books that I've read, and then they have a corresponding color that I color in per 10 minutes how long I read. Now some of these, like this green, that's an audiobook, and so this is approximately how long I listened to the book. So a lot of those things when I'm listening at work, that's like 8 hours of audio, but then if I'm listening to it on 1.75 speed, it's not actually 8 hours, if you get what I mean. The month, I guess there are a couple months that I would just like to highlight because I did so good. So May is really beautiful, and I think that's the second most books I read this year. Notable is September. I didn't read a lot in September. But then in October, I really made up for that. Like, look at that craziness. And this is where we're at in November. So we're doing okay, but not great. And then I have December set up. You can see I literally just draw this chart and make my list. So that's how I keep track of what I am reading and how long I've read. This is actually a new system that I just started in 2020. Because I wanted to see how long it was actually taking me to finish books. So I actually started it in May of 2020. And then I thought it was fun, so I just kept doing it. So let's talk about 2022's reading goals. My first goal was to read 80 books. And I have knocked that out of the park. I have read 111 books so far, and I'm currently reading 2. So by the end of the month, at least, I'll have read 113. So I think by the end of the year, I'll probably have read 120 is what I'm gonna say. It will probably be more than that if you consider all the audiobooks that I could still listen to at work, but I'm currently at 111, so smashed that goal. Also, Vino is here. So if you see a little tail bopping by, it's my whiny boy. My next goal was to read 12 poetry books because I want to put more of a focus on reading poetry. I read quite a bit when I was in grad school and then sort of fell off the bandwagon because I didn't have a professor, recommending and telling me what the best poetry books to read were. So this year I wanted to read 12. I only read 6. I was trying to read one like every month, and then around like May, June, I sort of fell off the track. Do I think I'm going to read any more poetry by the end of the year? Probably not. I have a lot of Christmas romances and other books that I want to prioritize by the end of the year. So I don't think I'm going to read any more poetry. This is a goal that I'll talk about in my 2023 goals video. This is a goal that I think I want to continue on. I might lessen the numbers so that it doesn't have to be one every month, but I do want to keep reading poetry and figure out what I like in poetry. Maybe that'll be a new video series, because a couple of the poetry books I read this year, I didn't really care for. My next goal was to unhaul 100 books. I bought a lot of books this year, and I continue to buy a lot of books because I like reading and I like books. They're like a comfort item to have around. However, I have a lot of books and not a lot. Well, I do have a lot of space as well, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bookcases in my room, not including this, and several bookcases downstairs, and like they're all just overflowing. So I really want to get rid of books that aren't bringing me joy, that I don't plan to read. And I think I got rid of maybe like 50. I was reading a lot in the beginning of the year and then putting them on a stack to get rid of. So I definitely got rid of 20, but it might be closer to 50. didn't meet this goal. I also didn't keep track of it very well though. So I think next year I'm going to keep better track of what books I get rid of. And you know, I don't think that having a lot of books is a bad thing. I think there has been a push recently to just like get rid of things and things you're not going to read. And I like having my options here. Like I spent money on these, so might as well keep them. So as much as I do want to make room for all the books that I'm buying, I don't want to like punish myself for not reading them. I did not unhaul 100 books. My next goal was to read 4 nonfiction books, and I have read 1. And that was an audiobook that I don't even own. I do have another audiobook on loan. So I'll talk about the nonfiction books I read since there were only 2. The first one was You Never Forget Your First by Alexis Coe. I might have the first name wrong, but it was about George Washington and his life and like the myths that we've built as our first president. It was interesting. I don't have a particular like love of George Washington. I just thought it was funny and I wanted to know more about our first president, and it was okay. I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars. It had a lot of humor, but it was a very, I don't want to say a very shallow retelling, but it was very much an overview of his life and his legacy and compared, you know, what we talk about today versus like what actually happened. But if you know a lot about George Washington already, I don't think You Never Forget Your First will like add to your knowledge. And then I do have an audiobook currently rented through Libby for The Woman They Could Not Silence by Kate Moore. This is the author of Radium Girls, which I really do want to read, but somehow just have not managed to get to in like 3 years. So I have the audiobook for this because it is surprisingly thick. So I will hopefully read this by the end of the year. So I'm going to say I read 2 nonfiction books out of 4. Not great. I do want to read more nonfiction. I have a shelf of nonfiction books that I'm interested in. So this is also going to be a priority for next year. My next goal was to read 24 new 2022 releases. And this one definitely did. I have read 30 so far, and I think I will probably have read 40 by the end of the year because I have a lot of 2022 releases on my December TBR. Did great on that. My other goal was I had several series that I wanted to finish, whether there was only 1 book left or 3 books left. Let's talk about those series. So the first on my list was the Broken Earth trilogy. I had read the first book in the end of 2021 and I wanted to finish that trilogy, and I did. I read The Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky. Loved it, thought they were great. I listened to the audiobooks and read the physical books, sort of back and forth. Wonderful. I think I gave them 4 or 5 stars. Hi, crazy man. What are you doing? Next on my list was the Gilded Wolves trilogy by Roshni Chokshi. I had read books 1 and 2 already, and book 3 came out end of 2021, I believe, and I still had not read it. Really wanted to get to that, and I did. I loved it. I did like the 3rd book. I think the 1st book is still my favorite, but the 3rd book was great. Next on my list was 3 Dark Crowns series, which I had read the whole, like the first 4 books and the novellas years ago and just had not gotten to the last book. I think the last book came out in like 2019. So it's been like 3 years. So I finally finished that series. I did really like it. I was happy to see how the ending came to fruition. The Wicked Fox duology is by Kat Cho, which I actually have the sequel right here that I wanted to read. Guess who didn't read it? It was me. The Montague Siblings books by Mackenzie Lee, the first one being The Gentleman's Guide to Vices and Virtues. But the sequels, Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy, and the 3rd one, which I don't remember, the Nobleman's Guide to something. I wanted to read both of those books because I've had the 2nd one about the sister on my shelf since it came out in hardcover. And then I bought the 3rd one and thought, oh yeah, I'll read I didn't read them. The Light at the Bottom of the World duology, which I also have the sequel right here. That's by London Shaw, and the sequel is Journey to the Heart of the Abyss. That's another one I really wanted to prioritize because it's just a second book, and it's very interesting series. I thought the first one was really original, really fun, really interesting. And I really wanted to finish the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy by V.E. Schwab because I read the first book, I think last year in 2021, and it didn't grip me the way I expected it to, but I have heard that that series gets better as it goes on. The second book is better, and then the third book is fantastic. So I still want to finish it. I own all 3 of them, just haven't done it yet. The next book on this list, also by V.E. Schwab, is The Villain's Duology. So the first book, Vicious, came out years ago, and the second book came out in like 2020, 2021. And I wanted to read that, just finish out the series. I really liked Vicious, just didn't get to it, didn't prioritize it. Cruel Prince trilogy, I read The Cruel Prince, wanted to read Wicked King and Queen of Nothing, still have not done it yet. The last series that I really wanted to finish was the Wicked Villains series by Katie Robert. The Wicked Villains series, I had read the first 2 books, and then I wanted to read books 3, 4, 5, and 6. Did not do that. I did read book 3. That is the Tinkerbell and Hook retelling. I did enjoy it. Very good. And the next one is The Beast, which is based on Beauty and the Beast, my favorite Disney story. It has a threesome, which I love a good throuple. And I just haven't prioritized it, you know? So those were the series that I wanted to read. I had 5 goals for 2022, and I met 2 of them. Not great, but not terrible. I typically put a lot on my plate or make my goals like really either quick or a lot or just too much for one person to actually do. I don't know why I do this. I don't set realistic goals, but we're going to work on that for 2023. Let me know what goals that you had in 2022, if you met them. Like, how are you? What's going on in your life? Are you ready for the holidays? So thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can like, subscribe, do whatever you want. I'll see you next time. Bye.